Are you a mom sitting in the middle of her real life, raising kids, managing a home, maybe homeschooling, and wondering if that dream on your heart could actually be something more? We're diving into what it looks like to take your passion and turning it into a purpose-driven business, even when the path isn't clear and the timing feels messy. If you've been craving clarity, confidence, or just proof that it's possible to build something meaningful in the middle of motherhood, this is for you. I'm excited to introduce my guest, Demetria Zinga. Did I say that correctly?
Demetria,
Well,
yes.
Demetria
Yep.
Zinga, sorry.
Okay.
She is a former homeschool mom turned full-time solopreneur and the founder of Soul Podcasting Collective, a boutique agency helping purpose-driven entrepreneurs launch and grow impactful podcasts. With over 20 years of experience in digital marketing and podcasting, she blends strategy and soul to support creatives, coaches, and solopreneurs to find their voice and build brand authority. Okay, I'm so excited for you to be here.
Yay. I'm excited to be here too, Elise. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's just jump right in. So I know a little bit about your story. So you started as a homeschool mom, and now you are a full-time entrepreneur and a podcast mentor, right? So how did we get here?
Oh, wow. Quite a story. So I really started as a work at home mom before I started homeschooling. And so that began my journey with working from home and figuring out business and starting my first couple of businesses when my kid was just about 15 months old. And from there, I just I don't know what happened, but I guess the Lord just laid on my heart that it would be a good idea to keep my daughter home for kindergarten and see if we could work through it. So we worked through it because obviously you graduated her from high school and she's off and she's now done with college. So that was the beginnings of my journey of the homeschooling, but the business was always integrated with that. And I felt called to both the home and business. And I've always kind of been in this sort of juxtaposition of, Lord, how do I do both of these things? But I know that you're in both of them because you called me to them. I can't shake the career business driven side of me, but I also really wanted to be on the home front with my babies and raise them myself because my first year and a half or so with my eldest daughter, my mother kept her. My mom was basically her mom because I was at work all the time and I really didn't want to repeat that with my second child. And so that's where we started and my journey was just a matter of like listening for God to guide me what to do next and what to start. So I started like multiple brands and businesses throughout the years. Not all of them stuck. Some of them were just kind of practice projects, I guess. But here we are today with Soul Podcasting Collective. I love every minute of it. And it's hard though. It's hard, but it's a good hard. And it's the kind of journey that I know only the Lord could allow me to have this. So it's been good.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So these are your people, right? So like
Yeah.
the people that watch this and myself, we are raising babies and you cannot get rid of that entrepreneurial like drive. Like it doesn't go away when you
It
have a kid
doesn't.
and you know that the Lord has called you to be a mom and to stay home. Like that other calling doesn't disappear. It
Right.
shifts, right? Like it looks a little
Right.
different, but it I think that it might jump out of your body if you try to keep it in there, right? And so I love that. So
Exactly.
you're called to both. I really love how you said that. And so you mentioned juggling like business and family. So what did that look like in not your current season because you're in a different season, but like when your
Mhm.
daughters were little, like
Right.
how did you manage that?
Wow. I was at this place in my life where I knew that it was either I'm doing it or I'm not. So
Mm.
if I'm doing this, then I'm up at 5 a.m. or I'm working around nap times. I'm doing teleseminars. This is before webinars and all of that. So we're on phone calls, calling into conference calls, and we're doing this around our kids' nap times. And I found like-minded people, other mompreneurs. And I don't think we used the term mompreneur at the time. So we were stay-at-home, work-at-home moms. We were whams. And so we had this wham community that we would gather ourselves around our phones all over the world. And we are on the phone with each other, supporting each other, networking. And that was a really big key of being able to flourish in our business. So we did this around nap times. We did it around our kids' well, some of them after school activities. For me, it was homeschooling, but it was, whatever we were doing, we worked our businesses around that. And it sort of cut into some other things in our lives, but it's just a matter of like how important is this to me? And for me, it was a passion. So it wasn't like, I don't want to do this or I don't know how to balance. Like I figured it out because I definitely was passionate about the work I was doing. So yeah, it's just a matter of like bringing it into your world and making it work.
Yeah, I love that. So what I'm hearing, and we talk a lot about, is about priorities, right? So if you're going to
Yeah.
say the thing is important, actually living it out.
Yeah.
And then you just have to make the decision. And so while it can be hard and you have to say no to things that you may have otherwise said yes to, it's just this
Right.
is the season. If it's important, then it's important. And
Exactly. There were
yeah.
a lot of things that I put on the shelf that, or a lot of things that I had to say, okay, that's for a later time when my
Mhm.
kids are a little bit older. And then there are also things like after school, not even after school, but just like meetings that maybe a friend might ask me to something. I just couldn't go to that function because I had to work on my business. And so there's sometimes I just had to say no in order to prioritize my family and my business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like everything you say yes to in the moment is saying no to something else. And
Yeah,
so having that mindset that you're like, if I say yes to this function or to this play date or to whatever it is, it says, okay, I am saying yes to that, but what am I cutting out later that I would be
exactly.
doing? And
Right.
so that's super important. And I love that you're talking about that. So you mentioned community. Can you
Yeah.
talk about the importance of having that community in your life,
Yeah.
especially, when you're all doing trying to do the same thing?
Trying to do the same thing exactly. And that's what keeps you going, just sort of rubbing elbows with others that are in the same boat as you. And you really just by that close proximity, whether that's virtual or in person, it really does something to your spirit. It uplifts you and it just makes you feel connected and understood. And there's nothing else like that. Like you have to have that. Being in isolation is not an option when you're in business. And as a mompreneur, especially, we need community. We need each other. And so I say like try to find something local because that's always fun to be in person with people that you really enjoy being with, meet up with every once in a while. But if you can't find that, and I've always found that to be difficult because we moved around so much, and my husband is in the military, so we were always moving, and I always had to find reconnections or just reconnect and find new connections. And so, me finding virtual and remote opportunities to connect with people was really important for me. That was always like a number one goal anytime we moved is find people to connect with that understand my place of life.
I love that. Yeah. And it's just a side note, my husband's in the military too, so I totally understand
Oh
that
yeah.
life.
Yes.
And every time we move, it's like you have to rebuild this community, but especially when you do it online,
Yeah.
like I had never had an online community until recently. And so like when we leave here, like there will be ties that don't have to be broken. And it's such a
Exactly.
weird feeling, like to think like yeah, so that's just a little
Yeah.
side note. Okay, so when you're thinking back to when your daughters were small, what were some of these early like mindset hurdles that you had or moments of overwhelm that you faced, and how did you push through those, knowing like God has called me to this thing? Like I know both are important.
Yeah. Well, I think my mindset hurdles were more or less to do with how do I get from where I am today to where I think God is calling me, which I felt like I was supposed to be in a leadership role, like just kind of being the face of the company and doing the work that is more leadership oriented and then hiring a team to help support. But I did not have the self-esteem for that. I did not think I was capable of that. And I was always the quiet one, always reserved and a little bit shy. Um, an introvert, I'll put it that way. And so I just never saw myself as a leader. And yet I knew that it was inside of me somewhere. And so for me, it was working through the mindset of how do I get to that place where I can accept that? And how do I, because I had to work through even personality issues with like working with clients and setting boundaries and showing up with authority and not being a doormat and not being a pushover and learning how to set structure around my business. And so that took years. That was not an overnight lesson. I've learned over and over again through some painful experiences, but it took some time. And I'm, getting to that point now where I think a lot of that is being resolved and it's age and getting older, right? So that's kind of some of the things that I've been through. As far as mindset, I think just like knowing where you are and being very open to just like open to understanding where you are. I guess that takes a lot of reflection, right? A lot of self-discovery and willingness to accept that there are some things that need to change in your journey and the willingness to work through it. So whether that's with a life coach, a business coach, or just talking it out with some people can be really helpful. Those groups I was talking about, those mompreneur communities, and just like really hashing it out and the willingness to change and to go along that journey is that's what's going to help. Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. So you had said something about being an introvert, which is interesting. When I was a kid, I was like painfully shy, and here we are, right? So, so you went from introvert to podcasting, which I mean, there's not a bunch of people around you when you're doing it, but you are
Right.
putting it out in the world, and so
Right.
you have to say send. So, how did that transition happen? Like, I'm sure there was a lot to it, but like, the short story of it, and like, why do you think that it is such a powerful way for a mompreneur to go?
Yeah. So I think that for me personally, I'm introvert, but maybe I'm an ambivert. So I got a little bit of both sides. And so I think even as an introvert though, like you have something, you have a message inside of you, you have something that you want to share with the world. And that is what drove me to the microphone. I knew I wanted to get it out there, my message. And I started this like in 2004, and I had a website, I had a ministry. I was just basically sharing like my life as a Christian woman through my website. Didn't even have a blog at the time. I don't even think we were blogging yet. I don't know. But we had these articles. And so I wanted to make it like sort of multifaceted so that people could not only just read the articles, but listen. And that's where the idea of maybe I could start this podcasting came from. And that's where my podcasting journey started. But yeah, I just got on the microphone. It was a really bad mic. It was just everything, the whole setup was awful. And I just said, okay, we're going to do this. And I'm going to share one of my articles. It started with that. And then people started listening. I got feedback. And then people started asking about, well, how can, especially Christian women who were listening, they said, well, how can I start a podcast? And that's where my podcasting business journey actually started around 2006. But yeah, I think just knowing that there's always that something inside of you that God has given you that you can share with others that can encourage, inspire, motivate, uplift. You can make a big difference in someone else's life just by a few words. You don't even have to have a weekly show, but just hopping on the microphone for even once a month. Like somebody will resonate with your words, and your people are out there. There's somebody out there that wants to hear what you have to say. So why not share?
Why not? I love that. And I love how you're just like, everything I did was bad. Like all this stuff was bad. It's like, but you started anyway. And that
Yeah,
is really a big block for a lot of people, like having to have everything figured out first. And it's like, you'll never start if you try to figure it all out first, right?
absolutely. You have to just jump in there with whatever you've got available. Just see what you have. What are your tools? What do you have? And
Hmm.
start with that. And then you can always tweak and grow and change things as you go along. But you got to start with where you are. And nobody's judging. Like honestly, people just want the content. They don't care if you don't have the best mic. They don't care what you're using. They just want the content.
Yeah, I love that. That's perfect. So, all right. So, whenever you're talking to moms with young kids and maybe they want to start a podcast, what would be like their first couple of steps to take? Like, okay, I want to do this. Now
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was the first step is making the decision to do
I
it.
like it. Okay.
And just like, okay, so now we got to figure out your passion. We got to figure out like what do you want to talk about? Because there's probably a billion things you can start a podcast about, right? But we all have something that's really pushing us, something that we really want to share at this season of our life. So figure out what it is at that season. I've started a total of 8 podcasts over the years, and one of them was a homeschool podcast. I'm no longer in that season specifically. But like I said, just find the season you're in, and that's what you're going to be able to probably share the most content about with the most passion and stick with it the longest. So that's what you want to focus on. And then from there, you just need your tools. So you just got to get, your microphone and your headset and your laptop pretty much, and then you're hosting and you're good to go. So once you figure out your tools, how to use them, your editing software, something you're really comfortable with, make sure you like using it because you'll be using it every week.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just a matter of knowing like what your topics are going to be. Curate those topics, and then see what questions would you ask yourself if you were your audience. Then answer those questions on your first couple of shows and let it just start that way, really simple. You don't have to interview people. You don't have to be, complex. If you don't want to do anything of the all the extras, you don't have to. Just start with a solo episode and see how that rolls. And you never know, like maybe it's something you really want to stick with.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone was thinking about it, but they're like, I really just don't have a lot of time, how much time do you think it would be realistic to put out a
Yeah.
podcast? Let's say a weekly podcast, because that's pretty average.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're doing solo episodes, you're not doing interviews, then you're just thinking maybe 15. Okay, let's say the shortest episode might be maybe 10 minutes, up to about 20, 30 minutes, depending on how long you want to talk. So I would say take that amount of time and then maybe double, give yourself about an hour to edit. 30 minutes to an hour to edit per episode. And that just also depends on how long your episodes are. So I would say about like an hour and then plus your 30 minutes to record and think about it, plus another 30 minutes to come up with your research. So we're gonna say on average about 2 hours at
Okay.
least. Just
Yeah.
to give you a little buffer, about 2 hours a week. Yeah.
Yeah, and that seems totally doable through naps,
Yeah.
after the kids go to bed, just like, set aside a
Yeah.
night or two. It's like
Exactly. And you can
totally.
break that up into segments. So you don't have to do it
Mhm.
all at once. You record one day, edit another day. So it's definitely doable around your schedule.
Absolutely. So let's talk about building consistency and staying motivated, right? Because at first everything's exciting, especially if you're an entrepreneur. Like the
Yeah.
beginning of stuff is like, this is the best thing I've ever done. But then you
Yep.
get in like the, rhythm of trying to do it and it gets less exciting sometimes.
Yep.
And so we go through those ups and downs. So how does someone stay consistent and stay motivated to continue to do this?
Yeah, I think it's really about making up your mind that you're going to do it, but also don't overwhelm yourself with too much on the front end. So, like I said, ease into it. Ease into this thing. You're not doing 4 episodes a week at first.
Yeah.
We're gonna do one episode, maybe not even every week. Maybe start bi-weekly or every 2 weeks, or even once a month, just to get into the groove. You don't want to overwhelm. And then when you're consistent with that once a month or once every 2 weeks, then you can add more onto your plate. You can say, okay, let's do this once every week now. And from there, you have to sort of get into this rhythm. After your first couple of weeks, you figure out, what does editing feel like? What does recording feel like? Do I want to start batch recording and batch editing? Doing all these things in one fell swoop so that I'm doing all my audio editing on one day, all my editing or all my recording on another day, that kind of thing. So once you get into that routine, then you'll figure out like what works for you. But everybody's routines and rhythms, workflows are very different because, like you said, we're in different seasons, right? So maybe a batch recording doesn't work for you. Maybe it's just like, I got to get this episode out for this week because that's all I can handle right now. And that's perfectly okay too. So just whatever works. But yeah, that will help you get into a rhythm so that you're not overwhelmed and then you stay consistent. You'll be able to do it. Once you know you can do it, it'll be easy to handle it. And yeah, you'll just do it because it becomes part of your lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you were saying. Like, it doesn't need to look the same for everyone.
Hmm.
I attempted to do some batch recording, and the thing
Hmm.
is, like, it's not working. It's not working out
Yeah.
for me. So I do
Yeah.
them as I come. And
There you
so,
go.
and it's been
That's what
working out,
works.
and I'm not gonna feel bad about it.
That's
I
right.
decided. And so, um, but yeah, so okay, let's talk a little bit about, okay, so you're doing this podcast. How do you get people to listen to it? Like
Yeah.
that's like the big thing, right? Like I can talk all day long, but like
Right, but who's going to listen, right? Yeah,
exactly.
but there are people out there that want to hear you, but it's just a matter of how do we share that with people. And I always say that, like, because I'm very budget conscious about, I don't spend money on ads at the moment. That
Mhm.
will change, but right now I just don't. And so it's always been organic, word of mouth, SEO, and also social media. So I use Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever I can use to bring the eyeballs back. But for me, I found that the platforms that are working the best right now are LinkedIn just because of my content. But look at what your content is about. And I would say find the platform where your people are hanging out and just really work it. Work that platform. So if it's Facebook or if it's Pinterest, work it and then get those eyeballs back. And also start creating a mailing, just create a mailing list. Connect
Mhm.
with those people on a weekly basis because they're already subscribed. They love your work. So keep talking to them and telling them, hey, every time you have an episode out, I've got a new show out this week, come by and listen. And that brings repeat listeners. So I think with all of that, I mean, it's going to save us money in the long run with not having to run ads. But if you do run ads, that is also going to boost your amount of listeners because of course you're bringing those specific listeners to you through ads. But yeah, SEO also is important where you can be easily found. When with my homeschool podcast, that was it. What helped me the most with was the search engine optimized blog posts and podcasts, so that when someone looked for something, they were looking for a curriculum review specifically, they type it into Google, and there was my podcast episode just about that. So it's really helpful to use that SEO.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And something that you had mentioned about having those blog like things that go along with it. And so like
yeah,
you can't do that on like Spotify, obviously. But if you
right.
do have a website, I interviewed someone who was about SEO, and she
Yeah,
with with ChatGPT and all the AIs, like you can literally put your transcript in there and ask it to write you a blog post,
yes,
right? And so now you have more words on your site for Google
yeah,
to crawl. And so
absolutely.
yeah, that's just a little extra thing. Anywho,
Yeah.
so you are a podcast coach and you do all kinds of podcasting things. So how can someone first how can they work with you if they're like, I love her, I need her. And then how can we find you?
Yeah, so I do offer podcast coaching, support with helping you get started, launch your show. We were talking about mental blocks earlier, so I help with that as well. Get you launched, get you started with your show, and help you with like curating ideas for your first couple of episodes. But we also have an agency that does the hands-on work with audio editing and video editing, so that's part of the package. We also help with interviews, so like helping you figure out how to be a great interviewer as well as a guest. So we kind of have this whole comprehensive package there. But you can find us at soulpodcasting.com. And that's where all my information is there. We also have free resources, workbooks you can download, and get support in whatever you need with your podcast. And my podcast is there also.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, yeah. So, and that'll all be in the description of this, so you can find they can find you easily.
Yeah.
So, right before we wrap it up, if you were sitting in front of one Christian mompreneur, she's got little kids, she's got just starting her business, and she's just sitting there, what piece of advice would you give her?
This is big. One piece of advice. I'd want to give so many
I
pieces,
know.
but one, I would say believe in what you have been gifted by God to do. Believe in that work and believe in the the thing that he's put in your heart to do. Don't give up because if you just continue to follow that passion like a guiding light, you will get where you're supposed to go. It might be 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road. You'll eventually get there, but you've got to follow it because God put it there for a reason. There's a desire there for a reason. So believe in it and follow it.
That's perfect. I love that. Thank you so much. This
You're
has been
welcome.
so much fun.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Wonderful, wonderful. And all right, guys, we will see you guys in the next episode.